Here are 4 exercises you must avoid if you have back pain with an L4-L5 or L5-S1 disc bulge or herniation. If you're new here, my name is William and I teach people how to overcome years and years of chronic back pain by changing their mindset, improving their movements, and building smarter strength. All right, so let's first talk about, really quick, the anatomy of what's going on. I ruptured my L5-S1 disc. You may have an L4-L5 bulge or herniation, or maybe you have something similar to me, but I wanna show you what is going on specifically in your back and why we must avoid these things if you're having a lot of back pain with this type of diagnosis. So this is a model of a 2 vertebrae and a disc. Now, your disc is not actually this squishy. It's a lot more rigid, a lot stronger. What you're gonna see here is just the basic anatomy of what is in between 2 vertebrae, your disc. If you have a herniation, you might see something like this. If you see that bulge there, that is where the herniation happens. It might be small, it might be super intense, depending on your symptoms and how things are going, how you're experiencing your pain, how severe or how much of a herniation or bulge you might have. So what we're doing is, if you notice, if I lean forward, this is the back of the body, this is the front of the body. If I lean forward, then boom, that's where that herniation tends to become worse. Now, but remember, you're not fragile, you're not broken. Just because you have a herniation doesn't mean that you can't bend over. We're just trying to desensitize this area so it's not as severe, and we can work on bringing that disc tissue back in as much as possible over time. So what you wanna actually keep from doing, if you look at this, if I'm leaning forward or bending over, this is where that herniation or my symptoms might pick up. So the exercises that you're doing, for one, we're trying to stay away from excessive, unnecessary spinal flexion for right now, and then build back up later. That's enough for the anatomy. Now, the first exercise I want you to get rid of for now are barbell squats. The barbell squat is a very technical exercise. There is a lot going on. If your back hurts doing barbell squats, it might not be because your back is weak or the bar position is bad. It could be anything from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, from a perspective of form, technique, and you have to really be mindful of how you do that. What you have to keep in check is this idea or this myth that the barbell squat is the king of lower body exercise. It's just not the case. Sure, it's a great exercise. It's a very common, well-spread exercise, but if you're in chronic back pain, you're having some issues, let's avoid this and actually do some other things instead. So the alternative exercise I want you to do is the goblet squat. Now, you can load this up if you feel tolerant of it. You're able to do more weight, your body feels good. Always feel free to increase the weight to your pain tolerance. But there's a few key things I want you to keep in mind when doing the goblet squat. One, I suggest having some kind of elevation to your heels. You can simply take 2 10-pound plates like you see me doing here, where I have my heels up on those plates, which allows me to have better range of motion in the lower part of that squat. What we're doing is we're trying to operate or do this exercise in a way where we keep the upper body as upright as possible. Not that we're afraid of flexing or bending over, but right now we're trying to still build strength in the body, in the lower body, and the rest of the body, the core, the back. Doing this goblet squat will allow us to keep a good posture, a good upright position without doing any kind of excessive, unnecessary forward flexion. So aside from the heels elevated cue on the goblet squat, here are a few other things I want you to keep in mind. One, when you're doing the goblet squat, obviously you're trying to keep that weight as close to your body as possible. Not just holding it there, but really engage the lats. You're trying to bring the shoulders down, compress the shoulders down, and you're also trying to protract the shoulder blades forward. So this is really gonna engage the upper back, the mid back, and the lats, which go into the low back, which is gonna give the entire posterior chain more stability and more control. When doing this, really try to keep and maintain that position while going into the goblet squat, always respecting your pain tolerance. If you go to a certain depth and you're having symptoms, then change that. Don't go as far, cut that rep in half, and only focus on what you can do. Same thing goes with the weight. We're not trying to break any records with this amount of weight that we're holding. Start small and build up tolerance over time. Before we jump into exercise 2, if you're looking to really go deeper with this concept of using exercise as a pain relief tool, I've got a free guide you can grab at fitnessforbackpain.com/pain pain-free training. I literally take you through the entire process that I walk through with one-on-one students in building out your ideal back-friendly workout. Grab that at fitnessforbackpain.com/pain-free training. Now let's jump back. Now the second exercise is the barbell deadlift. Now this is a very common thing right up there with the barbell squat. We're putting ourselves in a position that could potentially lead to too much excessive flexion for right now. Again, this is not saying that deadlifts are bad or dangerous. They're actually a great exercise, but for someone who has an L4-L5 or L5-S1 injury, they're having some pain, it's time that we back up off the barbell and try something different. So the alternative exercise to the barbell deadlift is actually just simple back extensions. So we're just gonna be working on endurance though. We're not doing reps. We're not gonna be going up and down, up and down, up and down. Instead, we're gonna focus on one position and building stamina and endurance in that one position. So you might have a back extension machine at your local gym. You might have one at your house. I don't have one at my home studio. So what I do is I have my squat rack. I've got my barbell. I set the barbell up in a good comfortable position across my waist with a pad. I've got my feet anchored to some kettlebells that will keep me from flipping over and looking like an idiot. And what I do is I get into a nice straight position. So I feel my glutes engaged. I feel the back of my heels up against that weight. I've got my lats down. I'm bringing my shoulder blades down, and I'm just maintaining that neutral position in that extended position. Now, what I'm doing here is focusing on just building endurance. Now you, because of your sensitivity, you may not be able to do more than 15 seconds of holding that position. You might not be able to hold your weight up at all. It's totally fine. You have to modify this exercise to fit where you're at. A suggestion I always give people is if you're on an actual extension machine, you can put your hands on the actual bars that go alongside that and support yourself while you build up tolerance to the endurance position. Or if you have a barbell, you put your hands on the barbell and hold that body weight up. Over time, your goal is to work up to being able to hold it for 2 minutes, multiple sets. Go slow, be easy, don't force yourself into 2 minutes right away. Build up over time and you should be good. The third exercise you should avoid with an L4-L5 or L5-S1 herniation or bulge and pain with those things are crunches and sit-ups. Very common exercise done in a lot of different ways in the gym. Let's just stay away from those right now because it's creating that flexion position that we're trying to, for right now, stay away from as we heal. A great exercise that I love to do is what's called the opposition crunch. And you can do this with a stability ball or without a stability ball. But essentially what you're doing is on your back, you're kind of getting in this dead bug position where you have both of your hands, your knees are bent and both of your hands are pushing up against your knees. So you're kind of meeting in the middle, looking like a dead bug. Now what you're gonna do instead, while you are pushing into the tops of your thighs or the tops of your knees, you're going to be bringing your knees or trying to bring your knees towards your chest. You're gonna create an opposition. So two forces are coming together and you're not moving. So you're actually keeping your hands and your knees or your legs in the same position. You're just trying to build a compression force in the middle. So a good example of this, or just visually, is if you have a stability ball and you have a stability ball in between your hands and your knees, and you're trying to squeeze that stability ball and pop it, but obviously you're not gonna be able to. This is creating a compression with your hands and your knees, which is activating your abdominals, and it's keeping your back nice and flat and straight. Where the key with the being on your back is not everybody can flatten their low back into the ground and actually feel comfortable. Whether you need a little bit more of an arch, whether you need more of like maybe a towel under your low back to keep you in a neutral position, or if you can find that neutral position, brace around it, and then do the actual work of the exercise, whichever works better for you. I encourage you to explore your body and get to know how your body is responding in these different positions. There's not a right or wrong way of doing it. It's based off of how your body is responding. Now with this exercise, you're going to be using your breath at the same time as you're compressing or creating this tension. What I like you to do is as you are pushing and creating this pressure in the middle, I want you to be exhaling all of your breath through pierced lips. You're gonna do that the entire time that you're pressing or trying to squeeze this ball, and you're gonna let all of your air out, as much air as possible, let it all out of your lungs. And what that's gonna do is really help contract the lower abdominals. So really embrace the entire trunk 360 degrees while in this neutral position. Building strength, you're building endurance, you're building stamina in the core, along with strengthening your ability to breathe and stay contracted during movement. You can vary the reps, you can vary the sets, you can vary the time that you're exhaling. Again, base it off of your comfort and work from there. Now, the fourth and final exercise isn't a flexion-based exercise, but I see a lot of people having back pain while doing it. It's one of the most common exercises in the gym, and that's a shoulder press. Now, the specific ones that I'm gonna be targeting are the standing dumbbell or barbell shoulder press. Any kind of heavier load, as you get stronger, as you wanna push the weight when it comes to getting it above your head, you're gonna have to compensate because it's kind of a weird position to be pushing in. So as you're pushing, your chest is going to come up, your extension is gonna kick in, you're gonna be really putting a lot of load on that low back, and if you have an issue in this area, it's only going to make it worse. So to get into the position, you'll kind of get into this take a knee position. You don't want your legs super close together. You wanna have them actually spaced out to have some good stability. You're gonna brace the back leg, contract that core, contract that glute, really create some stability in the trunk, and then you're gonna be pressing with that single arm one at a time. Now, the other way you can do this is using a bench. Now, if you have pain with sitting on a bench and compressing with a dumbbell, you should, again, only be doing one arm at a time, so the load shouldn't be too crazy. But if this sitting variation hurts, then just stick with the staggered stance or on one knee position that we just covered. But when you're using a bench, you're gonna sit comfortably in that bench. You'll have your ribs down, your abs on in a neutral position, and you're simply going to be pressing that dumbbell or whatever you have as weight above the head using one arm at a time. The key right now when it comes to a low back injury, specifically with an L4-L5 or L5-S1 herniation, you're dealing with sciatica or pain, is to find your current limits around your symptoms. You have to build back tolerance, but pushing through the pain is not going to get you pain relief. In no way, shape, or form will you ever push through pain when it comes to getting out of chronic back pain. You have to find where your tolerances are, match them, and go below that. Always stay below your pain tolerance and build up from there. So that's it. If you've been doing these 4 exercises and you had that diagnosis and you're dealing with a lot of pain, but you don't want to give up exercise, follow these alternatives and you're going to feel better. Before you run off, make sure you go grab that free guide. You can get it at fitnessforbackpain.com/pain-free training. You're gonna take this concept that I taught you here about the 4 exercises to avoid, and I'm gonna show you how to structure your workout to take what you've learned here and 10 times the results that you're going to get. I'm literally gonna walk you through how to build the best back-friendly workout you could possibly do. fitnessforbackpain.com/pain-free training. Thanks again for watching, guys. God bless, and I'll see you on the next episode.